What's good, everybody? Hey, Primpin. Can y'all hear me? Hold on. Can you hear me, Primpin? Okay, you can hear me. Cool. Cool beans. I was just making sure. So this is gonna be a very quick review and recap of tonight's episode of Power Book 3, Episode 2, Season 1. All right. So I am your girl Pandy of Pandy's Hair, Candy, and More. Hey, Simplistically Digital. Welcome. Thank you guys for coming in. This is going to be just a quick recap. I don't know who's following Power Book 3, but I am definitely a fan. And it is day 25, actually night 25 of the hashtag July Content Challenge. So I am coming on to do my part with the daily live stream. And what I'm going to be talking about tonight is Power Book 3, Episode 2, Raising Kanan. It is premiering on Stars. You have not seen either show? Oh my goodness. You guys, when I tell you, it is so freaking good. It is so freaking good. Hold on. So I'm going to just recap for my followers of the show. I'm just going to give my recap on the highlights from tonight's show. And then I'm going to keep it pushing. I can't wait to see what you guys have in store for this last week of July. It was very exciting what you guys were talking about in your live stream, Swarthy. So I'm so excited. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up and participate, but I'm going to certainly try. All right. So without further ado, let me jump right into tonight's episode, y'all. So basically, this title for tonight's episode was Reaping and Sowing. And basically, last week we saw that after a rival crew member was killed, Rock, short for Raquel. Hey, Miss Full Roller, welcome in. Thank you so much for coming in. Rock does whatever is basically necessary to get the target off her son Kanan's back. We know that Kanan is the younger version of 50 Cent. Okay. In the ad. She's in the ad, y'all. All right. And of course, the episode begins with us seeing a young Kanan lying in his bed, deep in thought. And of course, it is still being narrated by 50 Cent. So Rock basically wakes him and tells him that, the streets are going to be hot now and that he's going to have to watch his back after what happened to Buck 20. We know what happened last week. Buck 20, they took him up off the streets, right? So in one ear and out of the other, he ain't really paying no attention for whatever reason. He's thinking that, he got it all under wraps. He's not even listening to what his mama's saying. Boy, does he have a lot to learn. But anyway, in one ear and out the other, he starts off to walk to school and a car creeps slowly up. And of course, she's looking out the window and immediately rushes out thinking that they're basically back to finish him off since they did attempt to drive by on him last week's episode. And the boy ends up throwing like a paper or a phone book or something out the window. I think they was really about to try to take him out, but they didn't. I think they also wanted to just give him a warning. So in that moment, Raquel decides to drive him to school, still giving him the game all along the way on the way to the school. She's telling him what he needs to do. How things are hot now. He's going to have to watch his back. He's going to have to make sure his crew is really down for him. Okay. Now, still giving him the game, like I said, they get to the school. As soon as he gets out of the car and goes in the school, there is an all-out brawl going down in the hallway. When they get up on the fight, It turns out it's Davita and another girl. And the girl is saying how that's why Buck didn't really want you. I was with Buck the week before. Now, mind you, Davita is the girl who Kanan had the crush on, but she was also Buck 20's girlfriend. And he is also the boy who they killed last week. However, he also worked for Neek, who is the kingpin for the rival gang that his mama runs. Okay. Just giving some context. So next we see Raquel meeting up with her brothers, Lou and Marvin, over lunch. Marvin basically felt that it was dumb to give Neek those corners to keep the peace for Buck 20 shooting because they still ended up coming after Kanan anyway. Lou, however, reassures her that it was the right decision to make, and they then discuss how going forward they were going to have to pick him up and drop him off, and pretty much how Kanan is going to have to be put on ice at the stash house. You know, they're going to have to let him lay low. Lou also takes this time. Yes, it does have a lot going on. Simplistically Digital, it has a lot. And if you are not following the storyline, it will definitely seem like a lot. I'm trying to like briefly summarize it all so that it makes sense. For even if you haven't seen an episode, you can still follow along. Now, Lou mentions over lunch a bodega, some husband and wife couple. Yes, Buck 20. That's his street name, Miss Full Roller. Lou mentioned some bodega, a husband and wife couple that want to get in on the action. Now, we know that back during these times, they would go into a storefront business, and the business would be totally cool with their illegal activity being handled in the back while the storefront ran up in the front. So I guess he had heard that this wife was interested in allowing them to come in and do their business. Because, of course, they're going to get broke off and paid for their time and their service and the use of their location. Okay. Meanwhile, back at the school, Kanan walks past the school office and sees Davina sitting down in the office waiting to go into the principal's office. And he goes in and sits down to find out why she hadn't been in the school. Now, this is very awkward because they're kind of crushing off of each other, but we have to remember he just took her boyfriend out. And I'm sure the street's been talking. She's well aware that he's the one who took her boyfriend out, but they're never going to acknowledge to one another that he took her boyfriend out because that just wouldn't be the street code, right? So anyway, he sits down with her, tells her he's sorry to hear about Buck 20. And then in walks her mother, looking like a straight up crackhead. So these are the times that they're living in. She's instantly complaining about being called up to the school away from what she was doing. Like, clearly she wasn't doing too much, because when I say she was a crackhead, yes, her hair was undone. She was very unkept and she looked like a crackhead. That's how they had her portrayed. And Davita was very embarrassed by her mother. Okay. Next, we see Raquel, meeting up with Neek, the other kingpin. She's the kingpin of one side. He's the kingpin of the other side. They're meeting up at a cemetery. And why is it in these shows that they always meet up in a cemetery to have these conversations? But whatever. So they meeting up in a cemetery and they walk through. She pretty much tries to convince him to call his people off of her son. You know, like call the people off of Kanan, get this bounty off his head. And he warns her that you already know how this goes. Buck 20's people are still hot as fish grease, and the streets need a body. That's how this goes. Meanwhile, we see the detective. I cannot remember his name, played by Omar Epps. We see the detective and his rookie partner. Looks like they're just getting onto their little, what do you call it, beat. And he comes walking out of this donut shop or whatever with coffee and whatever. And she's clearly a rookie. He's in his suit and she's in a uniform. They're supposed to be working on the Buck 20 murder case. She's asking him questions, suggesting that they go and talk to Buck 20's mother to see if they can get any information. And he's like, Buck 20's mother don't know nothing about Buck 20 and what he was doing out here in these streets. And she's like, well, surely the captain's going to want us to know. And he's like, the captain don't care nothing about Buck 20's murder or what's going on with Buck 20's people. All he's worried about is us making sure that don't no other bodies turn up in the hood. Okay. So next, we then see Marvin, the crazy brother of Raquel, approaching Symphony, the fine brother who is the bartender at the club. I still ain't got a picture of him. I ain't found one yet, but I will. It was very weird. It was like he was trying to fill him out and what his intentions were with his sister. Turns out he was actually there to meet with the lady Tony, and he wants to secure the club for a party there that next day because in his mind, he needed to keep up the appearance that everything was all good in the hood on their end, even though there was this beef, this ongoing beef with the other side. He thought it would be a good idea to throw a party. Made no sense to me, made no sense to them. So that's what happened. He was over there for that. And again, that was the lady whose dog ended up in the microwave. I guess her name is Tony. So back to the detective. He gets in the car, they talk more about it, and then they roll up to the little spot where Neek has his storefront at. Looks like a tailor shop of some sort. And he tells her, his partner, that she's got to wait in the car as he enters Neek's establishment. He warns Neek that, he can't have no more bodies dropping in the hood. And they go out back to talk. And the detective is actually in agreement that Rock is a problem. He pretty much tells Neek, you and I both know one of the worst things to happen to the South Side is that Raquel Thomas taken over for high posts since she plays by no rules. He also tells him it's only room for one king, but adds, as long as no more bodies drop in the hood, I'll be waiting for you to take your throne. So to me, it seemed like he was giving him the go ahead and do whatever he needed to do as far as getting back at Raquel or even Kanan, with regards to popping off for Buck 20's murder. But he didn't want no more bodies to drop because then, of course, that's going to bring the heat with his captain. It was very weird, very weird. But you know how these movies are, okay? He did let him know, though, that he was betting on him to be sitting on his throne. Now, we then see the kids walking home from school. And Uncle Marvin rolls up and scoops Kanan up to take him to the stash spot. Jukebox comes up with some excuse. Hey, Edward, thanks for coming in. He picks up Kanan to tell him he's going to his new part-time job. Kanan has no idea what this is all about. Jukebox comes up with an excuse for why she can't hang out with the kids. She's got business, okay? So then Famous and the other homie, D-Wiz, Famous is like the little Hispanic kid. D-Wiz is the kid with the little black and white jacket on. They end up going to the bodega. Turns out it was the very bodega that Lou and Raquel was going to talk to them about securing their establishment to do their dirty business in the back. So as they get there, they're talking about acquiring the business. Of course, they see the kids leaving as they're approaching. They actually give the kids some money. It was very strange. Uncle Lou gave them like $100 a piece. They noticed that when they walk in, the owner's wife was very battered. She had a black eye. They kind of paused, but they still went on to the back to discuss business with him anyway. Meanwhile, we also see Uncle Marvin and Kanan pull up to this like abandoned house in a residential area. Kanan's like, "What is this?" And he was like, "This is your new part-time spot." So we then go back to the store, the bodega. Raquel pretty much makes her presentation to the owner, lets him know, we're going to reinforce this, we're going to do that, we're going to install security cameras, we're going to do this, this, and this. Take it or leave it. And the owner was like, "Okay, I'll take it." Now, back at the stash house, which again was an abandoned house, there was an armed goon there. So one of their people was there to basically watch over him. Jukebox, of course, the girl, she separated from the boys. Turns out she went to go meet up with a friend and they're like hustling in the fashion district. She's selling clothes. So she ends up selling a polo jacket to somebody for $300. Once she makes her little money, she's out. She goes to hang out with the little girl that she almost had the little kiss with last week. Now, back at Raquel's crib, she approaches Kanan on her suspicion that he got the guns from his homeboy that were used against Buck 20 from his homeboy D Wiz's older brother, who she was aware was fresh out of jail and back at home. I found it kind of weird. I didn't quite understand why she mentioned that to him, but she did. Now, the next morning, Raquel and her brothers are having breakfast, and she lets them know that she wants Kanan to pretty much be permanently on duty at the stash, just literally away from the streets. She doesn't want him to be around none of the street business. Okay. They go on to discuss Marvin's upcoming party for later that evening. Back at the stash spot, we see Kanan, and then next we see Juke and her friend Nicole. They're out shopping for dresses or something to go to this dance that she invited her to. They really seem to be developing quite the little relationship. They actually end up sharing a kiss later in this episode. It was very interesting. Now, Rock is getting ready for Marvin's party, or so I thought. Turns out she was actually getting ready for a date with Symphony. They weren't going to be attending the party. Kanan walks in questioning her about why he's being put on ice and constantly set in this house with this armed goon with nothing to do but play video games. And she explains to him to invite D-Wiz over to stay the night. She got some new movies for him. This is the way he's going to learn. He wanted to be in the business, so now he's in the business. And part of the being in the business is following orders. She let him know she had to do it once for 6 months. And, this is just the way it goes until things die down. While the heat is up, he has to be kept on ice. So I thought it was very interesting. Jukebox is actually getting off the bus later that evening, while Kanan is at home in the house alone, of course, waiting for his homeboy D-Wiz to get there to stay the night. She notices D-Wiz is approaching the house as she got off the bus, but her uncle Lou rolls up and picks him up. They didn't see her, but she definitely saw them. Kanan is looking out the window for D-Wiz. He keeps looking out the window like, where's he at? Where's he at? Well, one of the times when he was peeping out the window, he sees the girl Davita walking, pushing her little sister in a stroller. Because the mama is a crackhead, she's always stuck with the little sister. So I guess as a way of getting the girl out of the house and kind of keeping her from crying and whining was to push the little girl out in her stroller. So that's what she was doing. So he goes outside and approaches her, and she's still very sad about the death of her boyfriend. And they kind of have a few words. She shares that, do you know they only put 4 sentences in the obituaries about him? I mean, he lived his whole life in just 4 sentences. And then she finally shares with him, the streets is talking, saying that you and your friends had something to do with his death. He, of course, tells her, nah, that's just talk. Very crazy because, in fact, it's not just talk. In fact, he very much was one of the trigger men who went after her boyfriend. All over a misunderstanding, okay? Next, we see Raquel over at Symphony's house. So she didn't go to the party. He didn't go to the party. In fact, when Marvin walked into the club, he was like, Where's the new guy? And the girl Tony was like, oh, we got somebody else to replace him because he was having a date with Raquel. So Raquel's over at his crib. They're on this quiet romantic date. And he gives her basically the city's history. Remember, he's a student. I'm not really sure what his role is because he seems very clean cut and well to do. He doesn't quite fit in with all this criminal activity, but it is what it is. Next, back at the house, we see Jukebox singing. She appears to be all happy. Raquel and Symphony end up getting it on after this romantic dinner. Uncle Marvin at the club is all drunk and stuff. He gets into a fight and ends up getting locked up. Next, we flash back to the house, and Kanan is getting concerned. He's getting a little worried. He starts to call over to D-Wiz's house, and he speaks to his mom, and he must have found out that he had been gone, as far as she knew, on his way to his house to stay the night. We then see Uncle Lou at the club at the party with D-Wiz, and D-Wiz is like, well, when's Kanan gonna get here? When's Kanan gonna get here? He ends up telling him, don't worry about it, man. You about to have the time of your life. He ends up paying a hooker to take him in there and service the little young boy. Of course, get him all shook. And then they're outside leaving the party. They're like standing up on the side of some building peeing. I thought that was weird, but whatever. And he's like, man, Kanan missed out on a great party, this, that, and the other. And he's zipping up his pants and he turns to look at Uncle Lou, y'all. And Uncle Lou has drew his gun on this kid. On Lil D-Wiz, y'all. And bam, just like that, he pops the little boy. He blows his brains out. And afterwards, he calls Raquel. Raquel answers the phone, still laying in the bed next to Symphony, and he tells her it's done. It's a home run. I'm like, wow. So Kanan is still sitting at the house, just laying in the bed, all, trying to figure out what's going on, why his homeboy ain't never showed up. And just like that, you know how these shows are, it ends. And what it left me with you all is the meeting with Raquel and Neek, the two kingpins, at the cemetery to discuss the fact that all these people were still after Kanan, her son, for doing what they did to him. And him telling her, look, I can call my people off, but his family and his people are still very hot. And you know how this goes. The streets want a body. So I think that his mom is so ruthless that she arranged for her brother to pick up his friend, a kid, get him all off track and discombobulated, and they end up taking him out so that would be the sacrifice. He was the sacrifice for a body. It was very weird. And I hope that makes sense, y'all. And for those of you who are watching the show and following along, you probably understand and relate more to what I'm saying. It probably sounds crazy to those of you who are not. But that is tonight's episode, y'all, in a nutshell. That is also my day 25 of July live stream for the day. I will be back on Wednesday with a Hump Day midweek trivia live, and probably premieres in between that, with the emphasis on Creative Arts Week, which is yes, that is the gang culture, Edward. Oh my God. But I mean, I just still am not ready for a mother to be having her son's friend smoked. I'm just like, what? As a mother of 3, I'm just like, what? But I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. So this is just episode 2. I am really hoping that, I don't know, it starts getting a little bit past the grime, but I guess it's going to have the grime because the whole idea of Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, is to show us the upbringing of Kanan. And we all know Kanan, the adult Kanan, played by 50 Cent in the original Power series, was a beast. He was ruthless, he was brutal, he was vicious. And so what they're trying to show us in this prequel is how he developed from a child into an adult as that person. And they are doing a great job of showcasing that. So I really appreciate you all for coming in, checking it out. Like I said, it was going to be a quick recap. I take notes as I'm watching. It is definitely crazy, simplistically digital. It is very crazy. I am going to call it a night, though. I'm gonna bring it to a close because your girl got to get up and be to work at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I so almost did not even want to come on. I'm telling y'all, I was like, maybe I can do this tomorrow, but I'm really trying to get out of the habit. And I'm glad I did not do that though. Because it feels good to say, dang, I done went live 25 days in a row. Who knew I had it in me to do it? Because this definitely ain't Pandy's juice, okay? Especially talking about something like this. But it is a show that I enjoy. It's very popular. And again, this is the new season. This is Power Book 3, Season 1, Episode 2, Raising Kanan. I want to thank you guys again for joining me on this evening. If you all did not remember to do so on your way coming in, to blow dry on that like button, please make sure you do that on your way going out. I would greatly appreciate it, as it greatly helps out with my analytics here on YouTube. You all have a wonderful night, and I will see you all the next time. Bye-bye. Thank you all so much for coming through and kicking it with your girl. I hope that you guys enjoyed yourself. And if you have not already, don't forget to blow dry on my like button. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? It is free 99 after all. Make sure you double tap on that notification bell so that you are notified each and every time I go live over here and when new content is added to the channel. Until next time, stay safe everybody, stay encouraged, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.